Hello everybody. I got a question from a subscriber asking me how he can recover faster between the brutal sessions that he's putting himself through. Apparently he can only handle about 2 to 3 weeks of good hard training and then needs about a week of hibernation to heal all his battle scars. And it's a good thing, I will say, that he's able to push himself to that degree. Most people can't. But recovery is certainly an issue. Most people completely neglect it. They don't realize that they're neglecting it. And it is the yin to the yang. If you neglect the restorative part, you don't have any fire. There's no oil to stoke the flame. And he asked me this question, and immediately all these ideas came flooding to my mind. And I was like, this is going to be a 2-hour, 3-hour video. It's going to take forever. So instead of making you guys sit through all that, I'm going to make this into little bite-sized videos, one topic a piece, make it a little more digestible, and I'm going to put it all together in a nice little bow into a playlist, and I'll call it something clever about recovery, maybe mention something about a Wolverine, who knows, but something good, something that'll get the clicks. And anyhow, I figured for the first video, it'd be a good idea to touch on something that most lifters neglect. And I think it's something that if you implement, you will have positive effects almost immediately. And it also kind of goes beyond lifting as well. The thing I'm going to mention, and the tidbit, is cardio. For whatever reason, they're oil and water. Cardio and weights, they just don't mix. If you love lifting heavy iron, you absolutely despise being on the treadmill. And I don't blame you, I'm in the exact same boat. I do it because I have to, because I know the merits of it, and with maturity, you implement these things. So hopefully you guys will do the same. I think the best way to break down why you should be doing it is to understand how big a role the aerobic system, your lungs and ticker, actually play in basic things. For example, within a set, suppose you're doing a good hard set of 10 on back squats. Most people think that it's all glycogen, ATP, just anaerobic. In reality, about a third of the energy that is produced to help you squat, all that pounds, that actually comes from the aerobic system. And when that is trash, you wind up getting less reps than you should. That means you're going to be getting less stimulation per set. Not only that, in between sets. So once you're done with that hard set, you should be noticing your breathing is a little elevated. That's your aerobic system, right? Air, breathing it in. Your body's trying to recoup all the energy it just spent. If your aerobic capacity sucks, that means you're going to have to spend quite a long time to recover in between sets. And if you decide to rush that process, you're going to wind up with your next set not being nearly as effective as it should have been. So neglecting cardio so far is reducing your reps, and it is either making your rest times way longer than it needs to be, or it's shortchanging the next set and making it less effective. The next thing, and we'll go bigger and bigger as we go, the next thing is during the workout. During the workout, as it goes on, believe it or not, it actually starts to become more and more aerobically dependent. It's basically like, it's kind of like you start walking and you start hitting more and more hills as you go along, and you start noticing that heart rate, that breath keeps going higher and higher. Same thing happens in a workout. You're shifting and you're running out of glycogen. You're running out of, maybe an ATP, although you'd be dead, but it's becoming harder to come by. But as the session goes on, the aerobic needs continue to climb set after set after set, to where by the end of the session, I think it's approximately 50 to 60% of the energy being produced that's helping you perform set after set is actually coming from the aerobic system. So let's add on to that. You skip cardio, suddenly you can't handle as much volume, and maybe even worse, you push yourself, and those extra sets you did are almost not even effective. You're basically just piling on fatigue. The going beyond even the workout. So right now, what you've done so far, if you have a poor aerobic system, is you've gotten less reps than you could have. You either under-recovered between sets or are taking forever in the gym, which has its own problems. And during the workout, your sets are becoming less and less effective no matter what, even if you rest longer or not. And the fatigue is piling up because as your body has to pull from the glycogen system, so if your aerobic system can't keep up, your body's going to have to keep pulling more and more from the anaerobic system. When you deplete glycogen, especially from the liver, you bonk. You basically hit a brick wall and can't go any further. And there's huge caveats to this as well, because when you start depleting glycogen, that requires cortisol to free that up. When you produce cortisol, there's an inverse relation between cortisol and testosterone. So as you're pumping out all this cortisol, you're left with less and less raw materials to produce your own natural testosterone. This means less anabolism, less muscle building, as well as the session being way more stressful than it needed to, because cortisol is the stress hormone or the readiness hormone. So by having a poor aerobic system, the entire session is not only less stimulating, it's actually way more stressful. We can go further, because once you're done with the session, you're in recovery mode, or at least hopefully you should be. One of the things not many people know is that lifting stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight, and cardio, steady state aerobics, actually builds up your parasympathetic, rest and digest nervous system. So what ends up happening is if you skip your cardio, you end up being much more sympathetically dominant, much more fight or flight. It's harder for your body to turn off, calm down, and begin actually restoring itself. You'll see this as having a much higher heart rate just as the days go by. In actually, post-session, your heart rate remains elevated. And I'll also add this too. You do cardio, obviously your heart rate will drop, which means you're in a more parasympathetic state. But we can't forget circulation. Blood flow, blood it's everything. You can't heal without it. The slowest healing tissues don't have blood flow. Cardio has an unusually good ability at building capillaries and increasing blood flow because your plumbing is better. You got more capillaries running through everything, and your ticker is way stronger than it used to be. So that means better blood flow and better channels for the blood to go through. So already we're seeing some problems here. You're really shooting yourself in the foot by neglecting this aspect. There is one that I will mention. I think it's pretty important, I'd say. And it's probably something that you should avoid at all costs. And cardio kind of helps you do that. If you don't, this is notoriously bad for building muscle. The people that experience this, they atrophy at quite a rapid rate. The strength loss is unimaginable. And that's not being alive anymore. If you skip cardio, the odds of you being alive anymore start to go down. We see tons and tons of studies that show that it decreases all-cause mortality, and I think it might even be more than weightlifting. So honestly, if you had to think about it, I hate to say it, but cardio might actually be the most important thing. It might even be your foundation. And it kind of makes sense because without your heart, nothing really works. Without blood vessels, nothing really heals. So it's worthwhile to invest in, if not for life, just for better performance in the gym, better gains, faster recovery. Just so you know, you need about 150 minutes of moderate intensity, steady state cardio per week. And that's minimum. Just to let you know that is minimum. Ideally, you get a little bit more, but that's the absolute rock bottom. You have to hit that number. I looked it up, and unfortunately, lifting does not contribute towards this to any meaningful degree. You're going to actually have to get your heart rate elevated and for a long enough period of time to actually get the results. I will recommend that when you do it, a lot of people think you got to be on a treadmill or running through the streets or, doing something crazy. It's really not that. All it really is just go at an intensity where you can still make short sentences. You're puffing, having some higher breathing and heart rate, but you can still form a few sentences. You're not dying. And I would pick something that is concentric only. That means something like stair climbers, incline walking, the rowing machine. I think there's even a rope pull. But anything where there's no negative, there's no lowering phase is ideal. That means probably don't do any downhill running. Jogging is mostly out because it pounds the joints so much. And this will also save you a lot in terms of recovery, because when you pick stuff that's high eccentric, like you're just running nonstop, running a marathon, what winds up happening is you rack up muscle damage, which is going to pull from the protein synthesis. So whenever you consume protein, that's going to repairs instead of growth to your biceps and chest or whatever. As well as you're getting super inflamed. Muscle damage is highly inflammatory, and that takes some time to clear out. And it also, by the way, when you have high inflammation, it actually tells your nervous system to tone down. When inflammation's high, your body turns the dial back and stops putting out so high an output. So your strength actually goes down. And I think there's actually some research coming out now that shows the decrease in strength post-session actually isn't much to do with the damage or lactic acid and all those kinds of things. It's actually inflammation. And this is further proven with old people. Old people get inflamed extremely easily from activity. They typically suffer from a lot of inflammatory issues, and it slows down their recovery massively. So that might be a hint for what the next video could be. Wink, wink. But anyhow, avoid those. And the basic recommendation is, 20, 30 minutes a day. Get on something that's mostly eccentric-less. Try to make it as less, least pounding as possible, least damaging as possible on your body. And just get out there and move. I personally find it easiest after a workout to just go for I have a stair climber, so I climb that, or I go for a really brisk walk. I know not everybody can do that right now. They don't live in a warm enough climate, but if you can afford it, walk briskly. Go through your neighborhood, hit some hills at a good clip. I sometimes even jog up the hill. But, you're supposed to be getting 10,000 steps a day anyhow. So if you can swing it, walk briskly, get a good move on, take a buddy with you. That's always fun, have someone you can chat with, and you're making them healthier, they're making you healthier, you're getting the social benefit, if you're all about the longevity maxing and whatnot. But just enjoy it. If you could walk, I'd say for sure do that. Get some sunlight, fresh air, move around, see some things, talk to some people. But walk briskly, get your heart rate up, and if you find a hill, maybe sprint up it a little bit, take a little hustle to it. And you do that every day, that also covers it. One last thing I'll add, if you really do just absolutely despise cardio, is endure it for the short term. There's no real getting around the initial suck of it, where you gotta just put your time in. But the nice thing is, once you've built a nice aerobic base, the effort it takes to maintain that is almost nothing. There's some stuff I've seen where you can do one hard session once every 2 weeks, I think, and maintain your aerobic base. So it's a pretty good asset to have because it sticks around for a long time. It's relatively easy to build, and it has just so many benefits. There are countless benefits. I only named just the ones for, lifting and bodybuilding, but they go well beyond that. But once you build up a base, let's just say your resting heart rate becomes 50 beats per minute, something nice and low. You should see your heart rate increasing week to week, month to month. Once it's down there, it's nothing to maintain. Literally just walking, even more leisurely, and just having one burst here and there is enough to maintain it. It takes so little to maintain it. So just think of it like you're investing, like really good investing. And once you've stockpiled enough, it's so easy to sit back and just rest on the interest. I'll tell you, I spent probably 2 months, maybe 3 months, just stair climbing. I was a stair climbing fiend. It absolutely sucked. I hated every minute of it. It got better. I got mentally tougher with it. And my heart rate now is like 49, maybe 50 beats per minute. And I haven't done much stair climbing at all recently. But it's maintained. All I got to do now is when I go on walks, I just sprint up a couple of hills, get my heart rate up. Sticks around. I haven't had any issues whatsoever. I can do high rep squats, recover like that, no issue. I'm almost never out of breath when I'm lifting. And I got to tell you, the recovery has been night and day. I have had other people ask me about this same exact issue where they're having issues recovering. I told them to get their cardio in, just knock it out as wherever you can. And it worked like an absolute charm. Pretty immediately too. After a couple of weeks I started noticing massive benefits. One last thing I'll add, something that I did when I was doing my cardio base, was you don't need much volume to grow, I don't think. You don't have to be in the gym every single day. And if you built up a nice base of muscle, you can kind of take it a little easier. The reason I'm saying that is I hated cardio so much that I decided the only way I was going to get it done is if I pulled back my training frequency and volume and just made space for the thing that I hate, and I prioritized it. So suddenly on, I started training twice per week instead of, 3 times or 4 times per week. Dropped it down to twice per week, and I filled in the rest of the time with cardio. And then even after a session, I kept the volume low. I'd go out for a nice walk or climb more stairs or whatever. But I just prioritized cardio for a little while. And by doing that, it built up a base, and now I can kind of do whatever I want. So it's definitely worth it. I guess just to wrap it all up, don't skip your cardio. If you have trash cardio, it is going to tank the amount of reps you get per set, which is going to make each set less effective. It is going to wreck your recovery in between sets, which, again, either going to make your workout super duper long, which if you love that, by all means, super duper long, or it's going to impede the next set because you didn't recover long enough. It's going to make every subsequent set throughout the workout less and less effective because you cannot produce enough energy. It's also going to make the session way more stressful than it needs to be because you're having to pull from glycogen. And to do that requires producing more cortisol, which means less testosterone and much more difficult recovery. Having trash cardio means higher resting heart rate, means more sympathetic tone, which means you're not going to be resting quite as well in between sessions. And if you care, it also shortens your life by skipping it. So not that hard to implement, pretty straightforward, 20-30 minutes a day, just get it in. It's only 150 minutes per week. It's not that hard, I promise. Just get it done, and then you can go into maintenance mode if you really hate it. But I'm telling you, this is probably one of the greatest bang for your buck implements you could possibly have. So that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed, and until next time.